Transport for London have withdrawn quite a few bus routes in the past, and another bus route is about to get the axe, and that is the 349. Why is the 349 getting withdrawn? And why have many other bus routes in the past got withdrawn? Well, let's find out. Please subscribe. Please. Please. It's Tajay. I'm back again with another video for you guys, and I know I've been gone for a long time, but that's because I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to be more consistent on this channel without leaving long gaps of uploads. So now that I'm back, I've got a more strategic plan, so hopefully I can be more consistent on this channel. But anyway, let's get to the main point of this video. TfL are withdrawing the 349. Now, the 349 is a popular bus route to North London. A lot of people use it, a lot of people depend on it, but TfL want to get rid of it. And I think I may know why. Since 2020, when the pandemic happened with COVID-19, it meant that quite a few services were still operating in London. However, the big elephant in the room is that a lot of people weren't travelling because everybody was quarantined. So there was a point where buses were just running across the streets of London with oxygen, with just nobody on it. And this was a time where only key workers were allowed to commute. So barely anybody was travelling. Now, this caused a big defeat towards TfL. This meant that they lost a lot of money. When 2021 came around and pandemic restrictions were lifted, this now meant that a lot of changes had to be made. People also forget to realize that TfL kind of acts as a business. They're doing everything they can in order to keep their service running. In order to keep their service running, they need to make sure they're doing things in an efficient way. So if something is costing them too much money, they are going to get rid of it in order for them to keep running without any issues. And this is why a lot of bus routes have been replaced in the last few years. Those that have lived in London for the last 10 years or so know that there are so much bus routes in London. However, there are a majority of bus routes that overlap each other or more or less run in the same routing for majority of their journey. And you may think, why would TfL even introduce these routes just to overlap each other in the first place? Well, London is the capital city of the UK, and London is only continuing to grow in population, as well as the UK in general. Let's look at Old Kent Road, for example. You've got routes like the 21, the 53, the 453, the 415, and so on and so on. You have a lot of these buses on a long stretch of road running the same corridor. And you've got to think, especially on Old Kent Road where there's not much tube services or even rail links, you've got to think a lot of people are relying on the bus. And you can't specifically just have one bus running along Old Kent Road for the duration of his journey, or else that is going to create havoc for passengers. However, there are some areas where there are a few rail links and there's a long stretch of road with many bus routes overlapping each other. And this is where TfL step in and think, what can we do in order to save money? Let's get rid of this bus route so more people can get onto this bus route, so that more people are paying money for this particular bus route, so that we can let go of that bus route so we don't have to continue paying for a bus route that nobody else is really using. And that is where the 349 comes in. The 349 basically backs up the 149. Now, the 149 runs from London Bridge to Edmonton Green. The 349 runs from Stamford Hill to Ponders End Bus Garage. Now, originally, the 149 was supposed to run from London Bridge to Ponders End. But at the time that the 349 was introduced, the 149 had bendy buses, or the articulated buses, the proper term for them. And those buses were way too long to make that turn in Ponders End Bus Garage, for those of you that know the area well. So this is particularly why the 349 was introduced. Between, let's say, Seven Sisters and Edmonton Green, you've got the 259, the 149, the 279, and the 349 that overlap each other throughout that whole section. Now, that section is pretty busy, especially when Tottenham Hotspur are playing a game. But in general, it is just a busy intersection because all of those bus routes are quite busy. However, TFR think the opposite. They think that if they get rid of the 349 and reroute the 279 to Stamford Hill instead of Manor House, a lot of people will use the 279 more. TFR think that using the 349 and keeping it in service is costing them more money. And in a way, that is kind of true. And you got to think from a business perspective, why are we keeping a service running that not much people are using and everyone else is using the more popular bus routes if it's costing us more money to do so? In that case, we just get rid of that bus route that not much people are using and get everyone onto the more popular bus route. And that is exactly what has gone on here. Now, as much as a lot of people can be mad at the decisions that TFL are making, at the end of the day, it's completely understandable. The main goal is to get passengers from A to B at the end of the day. So keeping a majority of bus routes that not much people are using is essentially costing them more money. You've also got the Weaver line that runs from Liverpool Street to Cheshunt or Enfield Town, which basically parallels that long stretch of road. Even though the 279 will be rerouted to Stamford Hill instead of Manor House, this also means that the 259 will be extended to Ponders End Bus Garage, replacing the section of the 349. TfL have also decided to cut the 259 from King's Cross to Holloway Nag's Head. This now forces passengers to use the bus route 91 between Holloway and King's Cross. And the 91 is already a busy bus route within itself. To be fair, Ponders End to King's Cross is quite a long stretch of road. So the 259 being cut back to Holloway Nag's Head kind of does make sense. Now, going back over those last points to why TfL get rid of so much bus routes, we can see why keeping the bus routes 149, 259 and 279 make much more sense than keeping the 349, which has low passenger numbers compared to those three other routes. And again, looking in from a business perspective, it does make sense to get rid of the 349. Because again, if you're holding on to something that's not giving you as much profit compared to the other things you're holding on to, it only makes sense to release that thing that you're holding on to. As many of us bus enthusiasts may be upset to the 349 going away, I mean, if you ask me, I wouldn't particularly be too upset because it's only uses Route Masters, to be fair, and I'm not really a fan of those buses. Yeah, we see the occasional Electroline or BZL, but I mean, I think those of us that were local to the 349 or know of the 349 or live near it pretty much knew that this time would come. Now to conclude, I hope you can understand why TfL get rid of these bus routes. A lot of us bus enthusiasts just sit there and think, come on, we love that bus route. But when you understand it from a business perspective, it all makes sense in the long run. Why are TfL getting rid of so much bus routes? Why are they getting the axe? Well, in order to not go bankrupt and in order to keep making profit, best way in doing so is getting rid of bus routes that have low passenger numbers and keeping the bus routes with higher passenger numbers so more people can use them. The more people tapping into those bus routes, the more money TfL get. And you may think, but what about capacity? How will this work? Well, that's where the PVR increases come in. Now, a lot of the time, TfL don't make the PVR increases. Sometimes there's not enough buses to do so. That is where the problem lies. As I mentioned previously, London is a growing city. We are the capital city of the UK. It's only going to get bigger and bigger. So the less buses you have on the road, the more busy buses will be. However, that is what TfL want. But is it what the public want? I'll let you guys answer that in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. And if you want more videos like this, you know what to do. Let me know in the comments. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Share this video even. Or just subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.